Hi, I'm Matt Fielder, the University Pastor of Planet Shakers City Church. And I want to talk to you about one of the greatest things that every Christian needs to be involved in. It is the thought of evangelism. You know, so many people have been out there and tried to tell us how to evangelize, and it's all fantastic. But today I want to talk to you from the Master himself, Jesus, and look at a situation that he went through and how he went about evangelizing. You know, evangelism is important because when Dr. Yonggi Cho was asked the question, what do you think is the most important area of evangelism? He answered the interview, he said this, he said, I believe that mass evangelism is great in showing the world the power of a church coming together as a collective. But he said, where I believe the real importance is the one-on-one evangelism. And this is a man who has a church of over 750,000 people, so I reckon we can really listen to him. Let's have a look at how Jesus did it. Let's have a look. If you wanted to call this, I had a title to it, let's call it Lessons from the Master. So I'm going to look at the book of John chapter 4. It's the great story, we all know about it. It's the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. And here Jesus shows us just how we can go about applying evangelism, be it an outreach, be it one-on-one, no matter what you're doing. These are principles in here that'll show you how to reach your generation and change them for Jesus Christ. The first part in John chapter 4, we see in verse 4, it says that he, Jesus, had to go through Samaria on the way. Eventually, he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave his son Joseph. Now, the first thing that we've got to do here is we've got to get in position. Here's Jesus getting himself in position. Whenever we want to do evangelism in any way, shape, or form, you have to put yourself in a place where you can evangelize. Jesus is going through Samaria and he's putting himself in a great position. What positions are available for you out there in outreach? I mean, what community area is it that you want to target? Is there a park that you are looking at? Is there a shopping center? Is there a high school, a university, a primary school, just a community center, maybe even a student residency? But you've got to put yourself in a position where you can begin to do the outreach and be specific in where you want to target, because it does play an incredible part in how effective your outreach is going to be. Second thing that Jesus does is it says, soon, in verse 7, soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, please give me a drink. I love this about Jesus. You know, if I was to call this something, I would call it breaking the ice, starting a conversation. In other words, what is the hook that you're going to use that's going to get people's attention? Jesus meets this woman at the well and he asks the obvious question, hey, can you get me a drink? But what about us when we're reaching out into a community? What is the hook that you're going to use? What is the area or tool that you're going to use that's going to draw the attention of the people in that community? Simple things that come to mind for me is a barbecue, putting on a free feed, or a car wash, or some sort of community service that is actually appealing to the community that you're trying to reach. You know, many times before we've done barbecue outreaches at student residencies, and I got to tell you, the number one attraction to a student is free food. It is a great hook and it brings them out by the hundreds. We've always got to be looking for a hook on how we're going to reach out to our community. You might see a need in that community and realize this is something that you're able to help with. That's a hook. And it's an opportunity to break the ice. It's an opportunity to win people's confidence or bring them closer to you. It goes on to say this. It says, Jesus began to speak with her on a more direct level. In verse 10, it says, if you only knew the gift of God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. You know, first of all, it starts with getting in position. Secondly, it moves to a place where you break the ice and you bring a hook into the equation. But thirdly, there's a spiritual intervention. There's always got to be a spiritual emphasis to no matter what we do in outreach. So many times people go out and they do some sort of outreach, or they call it outreach, but there's not a sniff of Christianity going on in anything that they do. And so when we try to evangelize after that, people kind of feel confused or set up because there was no intro into the Christian circle. Whereas Jesus here brings a spiritual emphasis immediately into this circumstance. Now, by the way too, that doesn't mean that you have to bring big pieces of the cross or big fish stickers or everybody wearing Bible scriptures on their t-shirts. It simply means that you bring a Christian element, no matter what it is, to that environment. It is the greatest way that you can reach community. You know, many times when we've done barbecues, we've simply been handing out sausages and bread. Now, so many people ask us, okay, what's the spiritual emphasis of that? Well, at that point there, we don't go too spiritual. It's not like we shape the sausage in the shape of a cross. And as we pour the sauce on top of the sausage, we don't say, well, that's the blood of Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm not talking about getting ridiculous, but we let people know one of the main reasons why we're there is because we're from a local church and we want to help out the community by putting on this free barbecue. So these are simple things that we can begin to do. But another point here is Jesus goes on and begins to talk to this woman, and the woman asks him question after question after question. You know, in verse 21, Jesus begins to speak to her saying, "Believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem." And he begins to speak to her based on the questions that she begins to ask him. What I love about this, and this is another crucial element of evangelism, is Jesus only answered based on the questions that she asked. He was a man that knew what it was to say what was needed to be said that would generate more questions. You know, so many times when we find a non-church person or a non-Christian starts to show a bit of interest, we think that we have to throw the whole book of the Bible at them. We give them Genesis to Revelation in about 5 minutes flat. But Jesus never did that. He only threw out a little bit of information, and it caused interest in the woman, and she began to ask more and more questions. I believe that's an incredible lesson that we can learn as Christians, that just because someone shows a little bit of interest, it doesn't mean that they want to hear the whole of the Bible content. Remember this, Jesus called us fishermen, not hunters. A fisherman dangles a bit of bait and it attracts the fish. A hunter throws a stick of gelignite in the river and blows up all the fish. We're supposed to be fishermen, not hunters. So Jesus only threw out just enough, and when the woman asked another question, he answered that question, or he even asked her a question that will cause her to ask another one back. You see what I mean? It's all about getting people's interest. It's about showing them the way. I love the end result here. Jesus begins to reveal who he is to this woman, and it says this, that the woman leaves her water jar and runs back to the village and invites all the people to come and meet a man who told them everything that she'd ever done. Now, the truth of the matter is, Jesus never told this woman everything she'd ever done, but such was the effect of what Jesus had done at this well that it impacted this woman so much that she couldn't help but go out and begin to evangelize even before she was a Christian. I would love it if we started seeing that sort of impact, and I believe there's a day coming where we can have that sort of impact in our community, where people get so impressed by the outreach, so impressed by the way we carry ourselves, so impressed by the way we conduct ourselves, that they will go out and tell people, man, you need to come and meet these people. They're the genuine article. I'd love to say that in many times when we've done a barbecue or done an outreach, we've had this type of result where people have left and run and got their friends and brought them back. We haven't seen that every time, but what we have seen is relationships that have been built and those people coming along to our church over a course of months afterwards and giving their lives to Christ. These are very simple methods and very simple things that Jesus teaches us, very easy to do. It doesn't require a lot of thought processes. It doesn't require a lot of planning, so to speak. What it does require is a heart for our community, a decision that we are going to go out and impact our community, and always bringing Jesus into that community. Okay, so in closing, these are the 4 key points that I really want you to remember. Number 1, it's about getting in position. Number 2, it's about breaking the ice, having a hook to reach the people. Number 3, it's always bringing a spiritual emphasis to everything that we do. And number 4, remember Jesus called us to be fishermen, not hunters. Have fun, have a great time, and enjoy yourself as you outreach to community. And lastly, the greatest thought that I want to give you is this. Remember, Jesus went to where the people were before the people came to where he was. Bless you heaps. I hope you got something out of that.